Welcome back. This is News Desk. Now, Defense Minister Dominic Nitable has justified government's decision to hire an aircraft for the president's recent trip to Europe, explaining the presidential jet could not have made the trip. MP for North Tongue Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa had accused President Akufo-Addo of blatant profligacy and a rape of the public purse for the use of the Acropolis luxury jet, which he says cost about 3 million cedis. He said the decision smacks of insensitivity at a time that the country is going through austerity, and threatened to haul the defense and finance ministers before the House to answer questions on the matter. In his appearance before the House Wednesday, Mr. Nitable said though the Falcon presidential jet is airworthy, it's not okay for long trips.
Current Falcon 900, though serviceable, lacks enough range to reach long-haul destinations without refueling stops. The Falcon 900 jet will technically stop at airports where the president does not intend to do a stopover, and this could lead to unnecessary delays and placing a burden on an unintended host to offer diplomatic courtesies that they would not ordinarily be prepared for. Typically, a normal refueling stop takes about 1 hour, but in this COVID era, refueling may take about 2 hours or more because the passengers have to disembark and or the host country security has to enter the aircraft to inspect. The era of COVID-19 and its associated protocols, including distancing, has further brought to bear the inadequacies of our current aircraft fleet. Mr. Speaker, we must remember that ideally, a president must travel with his office. That is staffers who will be around him in order for the president to be able to do his work efficiently and effectively, even without whilst abroad. As it stands, Mr. Speaker, it is important that he travels with his security as well as his presidential press corps when necessary. Currently, when the president uses the Falcon 900 EasyJet, most of these other necessary staffers travel commercial with increased cost, as well as suffering attendant delays in transit because of the lack of direct flights to ultimate destinations. The simple answer I would have given to the question asked by the honorable member would have been a simple yes. The Falcon EX Easy with registration number 9G-EXE is serviceable. But as members will now appreciate from my explanation earlier, the decision to travel particularly to long and multiple destinations, such as the president traveling to France, Belgium, South Africa, and back to Ghana, especially during this COVID time, would always require a larger capacity aircraft, such as a BBJ or an aircraft ACJ 319U, even when the Falcon is airworthy.
Now, the ranking member on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, says the responses we just heard are unsatisfactory. He insists the presidential jet, could have done those trips.
We as a minority are not impressed one bit by the answers the defense minister provided. The question was simple. What is the state of the presidential jet, the Falcon 900 EXE, and is it airworthy? That is the simple, urgent question. Clearly, you can see that the Falcon, the presidential jet, is airworthy, and so the president could have used the presidential jet for his 3-nation tour over 9 days to France, Belgium, and South Africa. That is what the minority wanted to prove today. And it's important that fundamentally the people of this country know. The minority has proven today that the presidential jet, there's nothing wrong with it. It is in good shape. It is in pristine condition. It is in mint condition. And that His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo could have used the jet on the 16th of May when he flew to France. Now, the second point which must be emphasized is that the Falcon could have taken the president to France, Belgium, and South Africa.
Well, the debate on the presidential jet continued on PM Express. Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, whom you just heard, insisted that government has presented a weak excuse for extravagant spending, while Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul also defended the government's position.
The presidential jet was in good condition, remains in pristine condition, mint condition. It's a 15-seater, as we were told when Parliament approved it by the 19th March 2008, Hansard, which I have here, 15-seater. If you have a presidential jet in good condition, which can fly you to France non-stop, France, Accra to Paris is just 6.5 hours. If you need to refuel, which the Honourable Minister was arguing in Parliament today that one of the challenges with the Falcon is that it requires frequent refueling. In the midst of COVID, that is after 8 hours. It flies 8 to 9 hours non-stop. It's after 8 hours.
Sure
I'm very sure. I'm very sure. Because
thankfully the minister is
I'm very sure because the technical committee.
Because I didn't see that in the answer that was provided in terms of giving this. But you've said 8 to 9 hours. So
yes,
we'll check
I've said that, and I also have here, and viewers can go to the Dassault Falcon 900EX website. They can go there, and you see details of the specs. Or the specs.
And by the way, the thing about aircraft is that it's just like a vehicle. They advertise the specs.
They advertise. The specs are there. And let me read from the second page. I downloaded this document from their website. It says, no matter how you look at it, the Dassault Falcon 900EX, and EX, by the way, is for extended range. That's what it means. So it's for long-haul travel. It says, the Dassault Falcon 900EX is an impressive private jet with ranges of over 5,000 nautical miles, an incredibly comfortable cabin, an innovative 3-engine configuration for over-water safety, and fighter jet design strength. It is ideal for transoceanic and transcontinental trips and offers great versatility in flight planning.
You see, nobody in this enterprise, especially me, has said that President is not comfortable in the Falcon. Never. There's no part of my statement I've ever said that. I've not also heard anybody say that President Akufo-Addo says he's not comfortable. Please, I don't want that statement to be attributed, especially to me. I've never said that, and I'll not say that. Our president is using the aircraft. When he came, he used the aircraft around, and he's still using, even today, he's using the aircraft. So it is not a true story for anybody to say that he says he's not comfortable using, it's not comfortable for him. It's not true. It's not true.
So why do you choose that luxury then?
I'm coming, please. I'll come to that. This aircraft that we have has had at least 2 engine failures. You were right when you said that. It has also had a battery failure. It's 11 years. Even it can be new, I have that, but I'm just giving you the history of this aircraft. That it is not as if this aircraft is so pristine. Even if it is new, you can have a problem, but I'm just giving you the fact that it has had 2 engine failures, it has had a battery failure.
Now, having heard both sides of the story, let's speak to the experts. And Dr. Yakubu Apaibu is an aviation analyst. He joins us via Zoom. Now, Doc, you have written about the controversy, so help us dissect it further. You write that Ghana's current presidential jet is the Falcon 900, purchased during the last days of President Kufuor, delivered during President Mills's administration in 2010, is about 11 years old, and it has technical issues and had to be abandoned in the USA during the president's visit to that country. Is it your position then that it was a good move to charter this Airbus A320 for the president's travel?
Hello?
Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If you may, can you repeat what you just said? Because I only heard the latter part.
Yes, I'm asking if you agree with the position that we should use a chartered flight and not the presidential jet for this travel.
Yeah, so if you look at the itinerary of the president, I think it was from Accra, Paris, then Paris, Johannesburg, Accra. So if you want to embark on such a trip, definitely a charter flight or a private jet will be ideal for such a trip. Yeah.
Okay, you wrote here, in regards to the president's itinerary, like you said, he had no option but to use a chartered flight.
Yeah.
Why is that the case? What is wrong with the presidential jet that it cannot go to Paris, Johannesburg, and all these destinations?
No, the current presidential jet, the Falcon 900, can make such a trip. I don't know why the president didn't use it. I don't know if it had technical issues, like they had a problem in Washington before. But if not, that aircraft can make such a trip. If you look at the range of the Falcon 900, it's about 4,000 miles. So if I say the range is like 130 for the aircraft to fly without stopping to refuel. So if you want to do Accra, Paris, you can do that with the Falcon 900 without stopping to refuel. So that our current presidential jet could have made such a trip. But I don't know why he didn't use it.
Okay, so the argument that it will stop too many times to refuel is not one you agree with from your professional standpoint.
Yeah, sure. If to go to Europe with that aircraft, you don't have to, you make it without stopping to refuel. Because like I said, the range of the aircraft is about 4,400 miles. To go to the United States, you may have to refuel. Normally, like we use similar aircraft for air ambulance. So we use an aircraft called the Challenger. The Challenger, when it leaves here, it normally goes through Canary Island and then stops there to refuel. And then from Canary Island, it flies all the way to Halifax in Canada and then enter Teterboro in New York. So that is normally what happens with this kind of aircraft.
Okay.
So the Falcon 900 with Europe, it could have made that trip without stopping. But to go to the US, you may have to make a single stop.
Okay. Now, so now that we have established that it comes to the cost of the replacement, because the defense minister talked about technical challenges. But even before we come to the cost, you were mentioning in your article that the life span for a vehicle like this is 20 years, right?
Yeah. So with the Falcon 900, if you have like regular maintenance, it can go even more than 20 years and it will still function like new. So I had problems why the aircraft should have technical issues when it's about 11 years old now. If the maintenance is done properly, that aircraft should function like new. It shouldn't have a problem.
So the suggestion then is that perhaps it was poorly maintained.
Yeah, if it's proven that the aircraft really has technical issues, then that means the maintenance schedules are not being followed properly.
Right, thank you. Going forward, so now we are at this point. We have a faulty aircraft, according to the defense minister, and then we have to charter one. The price tag of 16,000, is that fair?
Yeah, if you consider the kind of aircraft that the president chartered, you're looking at a fair price of about the £15,000. I say that because if we are hiring like it's a King Air is a very small aircraft. It's more like the Falcon 900 range. If you hire that in Ghana here, we normally pay around 6,000 per hour. You know, so, and this particular aircraft is an Airbus A320, which is about 150 seat capacity. Or that I'm sure they configured it to put in luxurious items, but definitely don't be the 100 and something. You know, so if you want to charter such a flight, the 15,000 will definitely be like a fair price. But as to whether the president should have gone for such an aircraft is another issue.
Yes, so and that is the issue that I want to explore. Do you disagree with the choice of an Airbus A320 for the president's flights?
Yeah, I disagree. I think he could have gone for a less cheaper charter. So if you look at what he got, it's more like the top of the range. It's like you going to rent a car. You are given, you have a Toyota, a Mercedes, and then a Rolls Royce, and then you go and pick the Rolls Royce. You know, so that is what happened in this case. So the president could have gone for a less expensive charter than this particular aircraft.
What about commercial travel?
Yeah, so commercial travel for sure is used by some heads of states. Even when you look at the United States, in 1972, I think 72 thereabout, Nixon used a Delta flight from DC to Los Angeles to see his family. He did that because they wanted to cut down on costs, you know. And the Air Force One that the United States have now they didn't get it long ago. It's in the 1960s they started having like a dedicated flight for presidential travels. Other developed countries like Britain and Germany, France, and all that, sometimes they rely on their national carriers to transport their heads of governments. So with Ghana, we don't have a national carrier now. The ideal situation for us would have been for us to have our own national carrier. And then the president can always use that when they're going to travel. But as it is now, if he's going to travel, he has to rely on other countries' carriers. And that also is a security risk because definitely they can spy easily on you.
Okay. Yeah. So having said that, commercial is not advisable.
Yeah, for now, commercial, I wouldn't say it's not advisable. It depends on what trip he's going to embark on. You know, I wouldn't say it's not like advisable completely, but it's also an option that he could explore because he could look at like countries that are like really good areas. So if you look at like maybe if South African Airways was operating, that would have been like a good choice because of course Ghana and South Africa has like a good relationship. So we could look at like countries that we have good partnership with and they use their carriers. But you cannot go and take a carrier that you suspect that like that country's spies could get something on you and then use it to blackmail you later in the future.
Okay. So let's just say that because we don't have a national carrier, from what you're telling us, let's just say that that may not be a good idea. I'm just getting some information that the defense minister, after what we played in that sound clip, actually said that the Falcon 900 is in good condition and that the challenge would be with the stops that they would have to make because of COVID, you know, because of COVID-19, they don't want to make so many different stops for whatever reasons there may be. What do you make of that reasoning?
Yeah, I humbly disagree with him on that because, like I explained earlier, the range of the Falcon 900 is about 4,000 miles, and that gives you much room to travel to Paris in one non-stop. So there's no way like you'll be exposed to COVID by stopping in other like countries or so with no. I don't agree with him on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yakubu Akparibo, for joining us this morning on News Desk. Now, the former chairman of the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC, Dr. Steve Mantiao, has been speaking, and he's been telling us that politicians are the only group of people in Ghana not interested in Ghana's long-term development plan. Or, according to him, the profligate expenses made by politicians, especially in election years, without any proper accountability, is what has dragged Ghana backwards over the years. Dr. Mantiao was speaking on the sidelines of public engagement organized by PIAC in the OT region on its 2020 annual report and some oil revenue-funded projects in that region.
Under the late President Mills, this country undertook an exercise to collect views on Ghanaians on how we should be reviewing our national constitution. Among the questions that were asked was the issue of long-term development plan and whether or not Ghana should be adopting such a framework for managing the country's economy. I think the majority of the Ghanaians, and this is from the Constitutional Review Commission's report, opted for long-term development planning. And for me, it makes sense because then it keeps the country on a consistent development path. The current situation where we see policy reversals after a change of government doesn't take us very far. However, you find that the political class in this country haven't embraced this idea. Initially, the NDC and the MPP rejected the Commission's report on the long-term development plan. Somehow, following engagement with organized groups, CSOs and the rest, then President Mahama had a change of position. And we initiated the process of developing the 40-year development plan. This was almost finalized at the time the MPP took over power. But the MPP government has decided to set it aside and replace it with a 7-year development plan. And so you find that, by and large, the only group of people in Ghana that are not very comfortable with long-term development plan are the political class. And the reason for me is that these people like discretion. They abuse that discretion to shore up their political fortunes, especially in election years. And so you find election coming, something is not planned for, it's not situated within government plans, and yet because they are suffering some decline in electoral fortunes, they move resources to go and shore up their fortunes over there, and this leads to overrun in government expenditure. And this is what the politicians want. And until such time when citizens rise up and demand that enough of the one step forward, 2 steps backwards, we want to be consistent in terms of our development trajectory, this long-term development plan in this country will not happen. And that's the point I sought to make.
Now, investigations by education think tank Africa Education Watch has revealed how question papers were leaked in the 2020 WASSCE from various distribution points to online platforms, with hundreds of people awaiting supply of the leaked questions. Presenting their findings at a virtual launch, Executive Director Kofi Asaria attributed the shortcomings to poor supervision, as well as the activities of some unscrupulous officials working with police protection. Mr. Asaria also noted the contact details of more than 1,500 WAEC examiners, which got leaked prior to the conduct of the exam, undermined credibility.
It's the referee, they are the player, they are the coach. They investigate themselves, they clear themselves, and they actually certify themselves. It is only when you have competition that WAEC will begin to realize that the turf is now not a monopolistic one, but one that standards and quality really counts if you want to remain relevant. In the UK, for instance, there are about 6 assessment bodies conducting assessments. In Nigeria, the WAEC has not got a monopoly any longer. But I'm not saying that Nigeria is doing it, so we should do it. No. What we are actually saying is that competition will infuse some dynamism and innovation in the methods of assessment.
All right.
And help us migrate from the test-based system, which we are overly used to. And then apart from that, it will enable WAEC infuse more quality and inject more technology into its work. The agency with which WAEC must act will have been emphasized if there's some competition. But if we remain monopolistic, there won't be any agency by WAEC to change most of its traditional methods that have been overtaken by technology.
Joining us via Zoom is Alhaji Beni Yakub Abubakar, who has joined us. He's president of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. Alhaji, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How do you feel about this finding that Africa Education Watch has made?
Thank you very much for having me this morning. First of all, we all heard the news yesterday, and it's most unfortunate. And every necessary measure should be put in place to ensure the sanctity of the examination, so that at the end of the day, we will not be doubtful at all as far as the quality of the certificates that will be given to our students are concerned, to enable them to continue with their education at the higher level and ultimately contribute to the development of the country in a very positive and effective manner. The news also said that it has come to the attention of the minister and is addressing the issue. We pray and hope that the necessary measures will... There are gray areas that need to be corrected from whichever angle is coming from. Those issues are addressed and addressed appropriately so that moving forward, we do not have such issues coming up as far as the examinations are concerned.
Now, Alhaji, yes, Alhaji, thank you as well. But one of the concerns raised by Kofi Asare and his group is that WAEC has too much of a monopoly in organizing examinations in the country, and that if we introduced competition in the space, then perhaps we could see more quality and more technology infused in that. Would you agree with that?
To some extent, it is always agreed that competition brings about quality against monopoly, which sometimes there is a tendency of relaxing, knowing very well that there is nobody else to compete with you. And like he rightly said, in Nigeria, for example, we have other bodies that conduct national examinations. So if the authorities look at it very closely, and it is generally agreed that where we have reached now as a country, there is a need for us to introduce an additional body that will also conduct national examination. Why not? We are all in for the good of the country. So Charles will not frown its face at all with the introduction of a new body that will also ensure that exams are conducted and conducted very well in the country, in addition to WAEC.
And what about the suggestion on the introduction of technology in the handling of examination papers and also the questions and what have you? Is that something that Charles will support as well?
Very well. We support that too very well. Indeed, we have discussed at higher level about some of these things, to the extent that in some of the countries, you will be writing the exams in the same hall, but the next person sitting to you will have different set of questions arrangements against what you have. So even to be able to, as it were, stretch your neck to get assistance from the next fellow by you, or getting an external assistance will be very difficult because you wouldn't know what is in the next person's paper against yours. These are all technologies that have come to play as far as examinations are concerned. We have always urged our authorities that though it is very expensive, but it is also good for the good of the nation. So they should look at how we can take advantage of such technologies to introduce them in our system too here, so that it will make the quality of our exams go up and higher. And at the end of the day, bring us very good results that we all cherish to have.
Alhaji, having heard what you've heard, would it be fair to question the quality of the exam results that we got in the 2020 WASSCE? I mean, it's been said to be the best in a number of years. Should we begin to doubt that that is a true reflection of the performance of the students?
I wouldn't think so for now, until maybe the issue is conducted to its logical conclusion and accepted before we can't. But for now, we don't have problems with it, because even if some of those things occurred, mind you, it may be some few schools that were affected, but not the generality of the candidates who wrote the examinations. So that alone could not be taken and attributed to mean that the general quality of the exam is doubtful, and so the results should be doubtful. No. There are just a handful, as far as I'm concerned, who might have benefited from such dealings that were unfortunate.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Yakub bin Abubakar, for joining us this morning. He is the president of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools. You're still live on JoyNews desk with me, Daniel Dazi. We'll cross over and take you live to an ongoing Star Ghana Foundation event, which is focusing on giving for change. Let's take you there now.
I'm very happy with the remarks that you made about the position of philanthropy, because that's what it is all about in Ghanaian traditional society. And if I hear you right, this project has a great future ahead of us. It may be a game changer, a changer of all projects. It's fantastic. But I would like to say, as I said, thank you very much to Star Ghana, the foundation, and the West Africa Civil Society. I'm going to take this off, actually, because otherwise I have to do it all over again, because nobody understands me. And the Africa Civil Society for inviting me to this launch. And also I would like to say thank you to the Dutch and international partners. For instance, Wilde Ganzen and the ICON. Wilde Ganzen is a Dutch funding organization with a Christian background, and it basically means wild geese. And they had a commercial to invite donors, which started already 50 years ago. And I remember that as a child, I saw these commercials. I was only 10 or 15 years old, I think, or maybe 20. And I can assure you that is very long ago. And I was always impressed with it, because it was always the wild geese flying somewhere. And of course, the implication was that they would fly to other continents to have contacts and help other people. And I would like to thank, of course, all other partners for working so hard and making this alliance possible. Now, the next phrase I'm going to read is something that I would like to ask your attention for, because of a very special reason. I'm going to read it. The theme for this event, Promotion of Social Justice, Philanthropy for Inclusive and Sustainable Development in Ghana, examining prospects, challenges, and lessons. That's the name of it. Is well chosen because it provides an opportunity for all key stakeholders in this project to engage and appreciate each other's responsibilities and challenges, and how to work in a concerted manner to engender effective project outcomes delivery. This is a very beautiful phrase, but what actually does it mean? I find that very, very difficult. And this is not a thing that I have written, but my wiser and more intelligent colleague at the embassy did. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't think he's here in the room today, and apparently for a very good reason. But I remember the Star, when I visited the Star Foundation, that I said, one thing please in this project, which you should not do, is use jargon. Just say that a tomato is a tomato, and not a round objective which has a high nutritious value. Please, please. Anyway, but I mean, it is wonderful as I could read it right here. Now, I cannot make it too long, but I want to tell you something about the background of this sort of funding system in the Netherlands. First of all, the value. This program is very much value-based too, Mr. Chairperson, because the Netherlands believes that a strong civil society is essential for a good functioning democracy and an inclusive society. And hence the Netherlands supports civil society organizations to contribute to the reduction of inequality, combating corruption, strengthen the voice of the citizens is very important too, and stand up for their rights. Because indeed, a smoothly functioning and inclusive society is a basis for prosperity, stability, economic growth and development. Let me put it in simpler words. In many countries, the state is the main actor. But in free societies, and free societies have citizens, not subjects. It's a different thing. Citizens, free society have citizens. The citizens can organize themselves and stand up for themselves as well, alongside the state, and maybe even for the same purpose, to achieve the same things or to achieve other things, but they themselves have a responsibility as citizens to work for their society. Apart from the state, as I said, and apart from the private sector, that is the civil society. And that is a fundamental part of our society too in the Netherlands, and I think it is also a fundamental pillar of Ghana, because Ghana is a free country. Ghana is a free country. I mean, you have very much freedom over here. It is like we have in the Netherlands, and I've always found that a fantastic thing, because it is not always the case. We do not find that in all countries. In some countries, hence, the civil space, as they call it, or the space for civil society is going down, is shrinking. But that is not the case here in Ghana, and I'm very happy to see that, and that makes it also that I have found it an enormous pleasure to serve here as an ambassador for over the last 5 years. And please make sure that it doesn't change, and that you keep it after my departure, which is actually on the 12th of August this year. Anyway, but this support of civil society is vital, and particularly given the fact that, as I said, civic space is under pressure. And against this background, the Netherlands set up the Strengthening Civil Society Framework. That's basically the broader program. A successor program of the Dialogue and Dissent program. That was the previous funding system between 2015 and 2020, and the new one, Strengthening Civil Society Framework, is for 21-25, to support the civil society and the CSOs worldwide, in many, many countries. And this new policy framework gives special attention to civil society and the role it can play in achieving the 17 SDGs by 2030. Now that is a very vague sentence too, because SDGs can, of course, as we all know, mean anything, because they are very wide. But I think we should focus on the role of civil society. Now, the power of voice partnerships, under which this initiative was funded, falls under the policy framework. And that took 825 million euros, and that is a lot of cities, I can assure you. That's more than almost 6 billion cities, and it is for the duration of 5 years. So the power of voice partnerships, that is the umbrella for your partnerships, and that has started on the 1st of January 2021. And of course, that is basically, those partnerships are there between Dutch NGOs, international NGOs, and NGOs in countries like Ghana. Of course, you have the partnership basically oriented and founded and formed around a theme, and they work and are active in many countries. Now, in Ghana alone, we have about 8 of these partnerships. 21-25, and you are part of one of them, and that is the Giving for Change partnerships.
You're live on JoyNews desk. Ongoing currently is the Star Ghana Foundation's launch of the Giving for Change project. It's based on promoting social justice through local philanthropy, how we ourselves can contribute to making a change in our society. Currently speaking is the Dutch High Commissioner to Ghana. We move to other stories. We'll bring you more updates from that program later in the day. But at the time Ghana's COVID-19 cases peaked, JoyNews brought you a number of stories about persons who had succumbed to the virus or put up a spirited fight against all odds. Most of these stories were about adults. Today, we'll tell you the story of 12-year-old Georgina Lamte. She's been left with severe complications and is still on admission at the Ada Government Hospital after being infected more than a year ago. Bernice Abubeidu-Lanza has more.
The COVID-19 virus sneaked into Georgina's system and almost robbed her of everything, her speech and the use of her legs. Her family is not sure where she may have picked it from. She's intelligent and strong-willed, her mother says. Perhaps it's that inner strength that has kept her alive. More than a year after contracting the virus, she's still on admission at the Ada Government Hospital. Georgina is frail and her eyes look like she's got a lot to say, especially about how she spent about 4 months on a ventilator at the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, PQ, of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Her mother tells us about the complaint that has turned out to be the family's worst nightmare.
My daughter complained of pain in her leg when she returned from school. From there, she couldn't walk again. So I brought her here to the Ada Hospital and we were transferred to Kolebu. We found out there that she had been infected with a virus.
I meet Dr. Owusu Setre, head of the PQ at Kolebu. He takes me to the ward where Georgina stayed.
One of the feared complications is that sometimes the paralysis can affect the muscles that help you to breathe. And in her case, it did. So initially we had to intubate her, put her on the machine. And when the test result of COVID came in, we had to send her to UGMC. So it was at UGMC, recovered. We were able to pull the tube out. She was able to breathe. And then they referred the child back to us. And then with physiotherapy, and the child was able to go home. Then the child worsened and then came back. So when the child came back and we put her back on the machine, every time we attempted to remove the machine, the child arrested on us. I mean, by arrest, I mean, if we don't put the child back on the machine, the child was going to die. And this went on for a period. The child spent about 120 days on the ventilator. Eventually, we had to make a hole here and then put a tube so that the child could breathe through. Something unexpected, nobody knew, but there's a long-term complication of COVID. By the time the child was going home, she was all, the limbs were all stiff. We needed a lot of physio, and even the tube, we needed a lot of care. So we had to send her back to the hospital that referred her to us for them to teach the parents how to take care of the tube. What we think actually is that the child got what we call a recurrence, a reinfection of it. And that is what led to her coming back to us. So for this particular child, we think everything that we saw, even though it has been documented in medical literature as Guillain-Barré syndrome, we think the trigger here is the coronavirus infection that she acquired.
Keeping her on life support for that long was an act of sheer generosity. Georgina's 82,000 cedi bill is still outstanding. She had become family and the nurses and doctors just couldn't pull the plugs on her. Georgina's health has been greatly impacted. Her family is staying strong for her, but the incident has also taken a huge emotional and financial toll on them.
Things are difficult for the family. What to eat is even a problem. Georgina's brother has stopped going to school. There's no money. I'm a widow and an orphan. I have no siblings. I'm all they have. And I'm unable to do my usual petty trading because I have to be here for her. Doctors say she may recover fully, and though slowly, and be able to return to school. She was in class 5 when the sickness struck. My daughter is strong-willed and hardworking. She and her brother always received compliments from their teachers. They have always asked me to pray for them so they would finish school and take care of me.
Detecting COVID-19 can be very tricky even to the trained eye. The global medical community is still working hard to understand the virus, especially how it presents among children.
The first child that we diagnosed in this unit of COVID-19 was on this one with an intubation and a ventilator on. Unfortunately, we lost that child. This child was about 8-9 years, and it happened around the time that we were on lockdown. And they were observing all the protocols according to parents. This child presented with what we called rabies-like syndrome, like when a dog with rabies bites somebody, the way they behave, aggressive, spitting at each other, trying to attack us and everything. And parents were so sure that this child had not gone out to be bitten by a dog. They didn't have a dog in their house, and yet that child was exhibiting those symptoms. Something very baffling. So we decided, okay, there's a new kid on the block, why don't we investigate for coronavirus infection? And voila, when the results came, it was COVID. Those that come in with severe conditions, some of them come in fact, most of them come with what we call the neurological deficit or manifestation, brain things. So we have a child that came in, two siblings actually, they came in coma. So we thought, this is in our environment, cerebral malaria is the commonest. We started the treatment, we did everything, and still, child was recovery, but it was very slow. So we screened the COVID for the two of them. One tested positive, the other tested negative. There are others that also come with fever, itchy throat, sore throat, and then we test them and they come positive.
While Georgina's family waits for a miracle, the WHO has warned of a possible third wave in Ghana. Health officials are racing against time to stay on schedule with vaccinations. The scary multiple waves of this pandemic continue to traverse borders. Everyone is at risk.
Babies lost, children left with physical disabilities for life, all because they contracted the deadly coronavirus. We can't say this enough. Please, try your best. Stay safe, observe the protocols, and that's how you can stay alive in this season. Benes Abubedu-Lansa
for Joy News.
You're live on Joy News Desk with me, Daniel Daze. Up next is sports.